Private Engineering Bureau, NIT. Commander P. Suresh is going to also speak today. Mr. Nizar Kucheri, the visionary chairman and founder of this association. My colleague Rekha, the current president of QIMA, Mr. Salim Abdul Karim. John E.J., vice president of QIMA. Mr. Sheldon Victor, who came to India all the way a few months back to be with us at an AIMA event. And ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, a big thank you to QIMA for inviting us to be here. You are our trusted partners, and I think you are doing a great job here. First of all, let me share my wonderful experience. Every time that I come to this country, I enjoy the experience even more. You know, this is my 4th visit to this country, and I find the kind of, since we talk about visionary leadership, and I think His Excellency said the right context, and I think a lot of what he has said actually applies in the current context of management leadership. The first time I came to Qatar, I visited the Doha campus of Carnegie Mellon, where I am it's my alma mater, I am the alumni from there. And not only CMU, but I saw the vision of the leadership in Qatar as to why they have set up such wonderful institutes, not only from the US, but also from Europe, UK. And I think this is something that the leadership of the country can change the whole perspective. And I think Qatar has done it rightly in the field of education. I saw the World Cup, and it was mind-blowingly well organized. I think all of you who are Qatar citizens should be proud of your country, what it has done. It has been a phenomenal achievement. You know, we came with very low expectations, and the kind of organizational capabilities that we saw. This is my 7th World Cup, and I must proudly acknowledge that this was the best one. So I think this is the kind of visionary leadership that one wants to see, to face the kind of challenges that we see today. I would also like to assure Mr. Abdul Karim and all at QIMA that AIMA is here to facilitate with you the bridge, to build a constructive bridge between Qatar and India. I think there's a phenomenal scope. India is the only country today which grows at plus 7% growth. We are today the most populous country in the world, and we could use populace in a very productive way. And I think there's a huge scope of what Qatar and India can do together. I know you have leadership in the energy sector. We are looking at different technologies now. Qatar itself is looking at different technologies as to how to transcend the future. And in my speech, I will talk about the challenges for leadership. As we transcend, the focus can't be only on profitability. It has to be on sustained growth. And it has to be on growth that is acceptable to your population and that is acceptable to the world at large. So once again, congratulations to QIMA for doing a wonderful job. When I was asked to speak on leadership, I thought, where do I begin? Because there's so much of uncertainty over the last couple of years that we all faced with. Where is there not a crisis? You know, there is health crisis, there is currency crisis in some parts of the world, there is inflation crisis in most parts of the world, there is climate crisis all over the world. So we talk about so many crises that a leader has to face. And where all do you focus? Because you are not an expert in anything, or you are not an expert in everything, you may be an expert in something. So I'm indeed pleased that QIMA is focusing on leadership issues in the contemporary world. And it's a very challenging time for all of us. And how many of us can predict our businesses with a crystal ball over the next 5 years? For me, I cannot predict, because last year, the calcined petroleum coke business that, the presenter talked about, actually my raw material went up and down 2 times by almost 200%. So you can imagine the kind of pressure that a leader faces today in trying to, sort of plan his business. Many of my fundamental management theories were put to task and challenged. We all go to MBA schools, and I'm very glad that many of the young leaders are present here along with their faculty. But today, education needs constant innovation because your traditional theories or your traditional fundamentals, however valuable they may be, are put to test today because none of the options, none of the valuation models, none of the predictability models seem to be working because the whole world is gripped with so much of uncertainty and how it's going to be planned. Your own business is to be planned in the future. The idea, the whole practice of leadership must change now because, as I said, business environment is no longer the same. You can't adopt the conventional approach to leadership. We all live in a VUCA world where volatility, uncertainty, confusion, and ambiguity seems to be the order of the day. And I know all of you are successfully traversing this path, but you must be doing something different from what you did a decade back or what you did 5 years back and today that keeps your businesses alive, kicking, sustainable. So we ought to think of a new approach rather than the conventional approach. It's no longer enough for leaders just to mobilize the organization. What did the top level job normally done? You mobilize the organization, set the direction, and when there is a problem, you arbitrate amongst its members. It's not that simple anymore. The world is progressively becoming more complex and demanding. And the ideas of who can be the leader and what is expected of a leader is constantly changing. In recent times, the whole world has moved in unexpected ways and often suddenly. And the leaders do not have the luxury. We could say that, I have great minded in this organization, I've spent 5 decades in this organization, and I am the man with the biggest experience. I don't think that's my solution anymore. The growing frequency, variety, and severity of change and crisis are just making life more difficult for all the leaders. And not everything is bad. This always challenges and crises present opportunities. Always necessity is the biggest propagator of invention. So we have to look at it positively. But these are things that are actually happening. The leaders today have to worry about the next health crisis. I hope COVID is gone forever, but we don't know what will come. Ecological disasters. We are currently seeing forest fires in the US and Canada, which is affecting the US. We are talking about geo-economic shifts. All of us know the famous Ukraine and Russia war, the geopolitical friction. Supply chains are becoming very vulnerable. You think you have a reliable supply in some part of the world, and suddenly the geopolitics changes it, and you are left with no option but to look at other options. Inflation is tearing apart. Many central banks, many governments, it's a point of worry for many, many countries. While all this, we also have to worry about business growth, emerging competition, green radicalism, disruptive technologies, democratic shifts, churning policies and regulations. So how many things are you going to tackle at a time? But we have to do it. We have to do it with giving more comfort to our teams. We have to do it with embracing others. Today, leadership is not that you are the boss and you are the master. You have to do a shared concept of leadership. Pick up the brains of young kids, pick up the brains of young managers, and traverse this very, very challenging path. That's why I say that today's business leader is not only a mobilizer and a strategist, but also a politician, a reformer, a technologist, and much more. Not just the focus areas, but also the matter and the manners of leadership are expected to be quite different from the familiar ones that we know in the past. Today, a leader, rather than saying, as I said, he is a master and boss, has to be a guide, philosopher, friend of employees. The leadership is no longer learned, as our Excellency said, it's more learned from social media debates. It's very important to see elections in the US were fought on likes and dislikes. All of you all know the story how Donald Trump, when he utilized social media very effectively. So leadership is no longer learned from books like The Art of War. You have to change and pick up things from different avenues and different sources. The CEO today, earlier the CEO was appointed by the shareholder, by the largest promoter, and he was always the one who kept shareholders aligned and also, thought that he's serving the shareholder and maximization of shareholders' wealth is his only goal. That has changed today. He has to make sure that the shareholders are aligned with the demands of the stakeholders. Public at large, the community at large, plays a very, very big role. In a huge country like India today, we face a lot of social pressures, when we set up our businesses. And a leader should have the compassion, the maturity to deal with such kind of pressures. The qualifying traits for leaders have changed from just as I said, a profit-focused vision and shrewdness to public responsibility, sensitivity, and accommodation. This actually connects very well to what His Excellency said. And he talked about Mahatma Gandhi, he talked about so many Nobel Prizes. And at the end of the day, it is the human good. Earlier, many of the corporations were just totally passionate about maximization of profits. While profits is important, while growth is important, today you have to consider the other factors. Time has come now, the pressure has become so large, with so many of the crises that I talked to you about first, that we have to embrace those and then take people along with us as we enlarge our businesses. One of the biggest concerns for today's business leaders is reconciling business growth with public health and environment. This is what I just talked about. We all remember the memoirs of the COVID pandemic, and they are still fresh and massive, and we saw in a country like India what a massive dislocation of workforce would do. I am in the real estate and construction business. Overnight, people were pressurizing us to send them back home. And we know the distances are so large from where I live to where their villages were. I knew that if they had to go back, they would take at least 6 months to a year to come back. So overnight, we had to think differently. We said, please don't go away. We took care of them. We set up within our working sites, we set up camps for them. We overnight got people to construct camps for us. We gave them enough food, we gave them enough medication. We sent money to their families in those villages, and we kept them happy. So what I'm saying is, the focus has to change, and one has to be extremely careful in terms of looking after the safety, well-being of its workers, of its employees. These were not talked about at the feedback. It was given that you had to adopt a certain standard, and that was it. The rest was all about profits, but this is now changed. All of you all know that the 5th of June was celebrated as the World Environment Day. What is the message for the business leaders like you and me? That we can't ignore it anymore. In every aspect today, whether the kind of product you make, the kind of technology you follow, mind you, the changes will come much faster than what we think. And the pressures will be so large, whether it's through a regulatory regime of the government, whether it's by elections, by the consumer, we have to think differently. We cannot think that our product today is doing very well, it's selling well. You have to look at the future and say, what can I do different in this product? By maintaining the quality, by maintaining the affordability, by maintaining the value to the consumer. If we find that we are not following the ESG norms that we talk about, there is a huge risk that investors may not invest in your company, your valuation may take a beating, and your brand image may take a beat. So we have to look at so many other factors today, rather than saying that I will just maximize my profit. Climate change activism is something that has got a quick boost during the COVID pandemic. It was always there, but it just got a more serious boost as people became more receptive to many of the reality of global catastrophes. Business leaders like us today have to be more mindful of growing climate change dependency, as well as considerable public rejection of polluting technologies and products made with non-biodegradable materials. The traditional energy, packaging, transportation industry are under attack, and governments around the world are joining the cause and imposing either very high costs or even bans on so many of the conventional business and products. You know what's happening with the automobile industry. Suddenly the leadership in the automobile industry is taken up and says that we need to do better, we need to go for hybrid, and from hybrid we need to go to electrical cars. Now they're talking about hydrogen cars. So, see the kind of flexibility and adaptability that you have to do. And what do we have to do as leaders? We have to constantly communicate effectively with the world at large as to what the plans of your business are. Because you may think today you have a great product, but in whatever I discussed regarding ESG or regarding climate change, if you don't follow it, today you may still be making good money. But I think the lesson is written on the wall that the days are numbered. Business leaders are also coming around to welcome the pressure for more socially aware behavior because it's creating new opportunities for unconventional competitive advantages. The biggest benefit of leading by purpose is in placing the business goals and methods. It's no longer only for the younger generation, particularly I have realized. It's no longer only about making money. Earlier you had to give them a designation, you had to give them a good pay, and you had to get work done from them. Today they want to know what's the vision of the leader. Can I align my vision to your vision? 20 years back, when my father or my grandfather ran the business, nobody had the guts to ask them what their vision was. The vision was implied, the vision was stated, and you had to just work. And you had to be happy with your salary, you had to be happy with your promotional avenues. Today, youngsters question us. For example, post-COVID, I started doing a sort of a chairman's club with the younger generation, the middle-level managers. And they have a host of questions. And unless they're satisfied, they don't end the meeting. They want to know what are you going to do for sustainability? How are you going to face competition? When they know too much about what your other competitors are doing. So a leader no longer can say, it's my way or highway. It is my way and your way, and it's our way together. That's how one has to respond to many of the young managers. Many of the students will be happy to know that their role will become much more effective and larger once they graduate. But this is how the world is going. So leading by purpose is particularly powerful in getting their employees fully committed to the business, as they see more meaning in their work, rather than just spending time for business salaries. I had a youngster who I was recruiting in my pet coke business, and he was very, very bright, and we tried to say that, okay, we'll abide by your expectations in terms of salaries, this, that, but he put another condition. He says, you will not question whether I'll come physically to work. I may be wanting to go to Thailand for 3 months with my wife and he has a 3-year-old daughter. So long as the work gets done and I contribute effectively to the organization, if this condition is acceptable to you, then I'm on. If this is not acceptable to you, I will not come. So look at the way a leader has to think today. And if you make one exception, you have to make 500 exceptions. So you have to constantly have the ability to embrace the changes that are happening. It's not easy. It's not easy for somebody who's worked 25 or 30 years in their career, headed an organization, and suddenly one young boy who's barely half your age comes and tells you that please don't question me whether I come to the office at what time. So long as your work gets done, you should be happy with it. So these are some of the challenges. I think one is, as I said, and the other one, which is a big one, which we saw again, COVID and post-COVID, is technology. I think technology is now one of the core areas of leadership. We may not be experts in technology, but when we find that technology plays a role, we have to be sensitive enough to get best talent, hire the best talent, give them the space and the authority to decide, so that your company embraces technology. Because of compulsory digitalization during the COVID, technology has got entrenched in every facet. Whether it's consumer behavior, whether it's sales, whether it's marketing, whether it's competitive information, and then comes the threats of adopting technology. Somebody attacks your website, somebody doesn't give you access to your server, so how many things are you going to tackle? But the right way to look at it is to get the right people in your team, give them the comfort that you will work along with them, give them the space, let them prove themselves, and then have the concept that I talked earlier of shared leadership. so that the growth in the organization is assured and run by the people who do believe and have faith in. The other thing that is coming to be a challenge and an opportunity is the changing demographics. You have a younger population, you have an older population that has worked and reached at a very high level. The earlier management thinking used to be different. And they were more like politicians and diplomats who used to put one against the other and get work done. That doesn't work anymore. You need to have a very transparent communication, transparent process in the company in place to see that everybody is aligned with that vision. And in that vision, how do you give a role to a younger manager and how do you give a role to an older manager? The strengths and capabilities of an older manager and the strengths and capabilities of a younger manager may not be the same, but they can be complemented together. And I think with this complement, what we could see is that the organization can prosper by building on the capabilities of these people together, so that one contributes to the changing dynamics of the business that the younger generation sees very well. And the older generation gets in a lot of value systems, ethos, experience, the principles of the founding fathers. Sometimes you believe, like for example, all of you know the Tata Group in India. That's looked as the ultimate business house to do social good. Now, the older generation probably could add value. What the founders of the organization could do is. So, in a nutshell, what I would like to say in conclusion is that leadership in a changing world requires adaptability that I talked about. You can't be very fixed with your ideas. And if you're fixed with your ideas today, the world will overtake you. You need to have an effective communication strategy. You need to be very transparent in your communication. You need to take your people into confidence. Build a very, very secure zone for them to discuss freely and come up with solutions to complex problems. You need resilience. That is one of the biggest quality I think that a leader needs, particularly in complex and VUCA world of today, is resilience. You need expert decision making, because at the end of the day, issues like climate change, issues like ESG in certain things cannot afford shortcuts. And it's why shortcuts are very tempting for us in the short run to generate more profits and to show very great quarterly figures and let the analysts be happy. If the analysts go into depth, and today's analysts give huge ratings to stuff like ESG, it becomes a problem in the future, so we need to be mindful of that right now. We need a global mindset. No longer you can say, I'm in India, I'm in a village, so I'm going to do what I want, and my business has done well for the last 5 decades, so it will do well for the next 5 decades. With the kind of, as I said, geopolitical changes, with the kind of supply chain vulnerability that I talked about, if we continue doing the same thing, I think we can have a problem. As we navigate the complexities and uncertainties of our ever-evolving world, let us all embrace these attributes and strive to become the leaders our world needs. It's actually about what our world needs and what we can do to human mankind. Each one of us, I believe, has the capacity to make a positive difference, to inspire change, and to shape a better future. Once again, thank you for all the attention, and I wish you all the best in your own leadership journeys. Together, let us all embrace challenges and opportunities of a changing world and lead with a purpose and impact. Thank you so much.